What's up, Pod Pals? It is your buddy Adam, and you are checking out Podcasting Business School. This is a show where I teach you how to love your podcast like a hobby, but build it like a business. If you're looking for some podcasting tips for how to monetize your podcast, how to grow your podcast, how to get more podcast downloads, how to get more audience engagement, you're in the right place. This is a podcast audit. I've got my new pod pal, Carrie, from the Ready, Set, Mindful podcast in the house. She's fired up. Carrie is actually one of my newest coaching clients. So we can maybe talk about that a little bit, the progress we've made so far, and dive into your podcast audit. So Carrie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Super excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I'm excited to be, digging in and helping you with your show already. Can you give us a little bit of a background on your show, like who exactly we're looking at targeting as far as ideal listeners?
Yeah, for sure. So my show is for athletes from various levels. So high school athletes, college athletes, professional athletes, and parents of high school athletes. So anyone really looking to optimize their performance, take it to the next level. I also am a therapist. So anyone interested in how to optimize their performance from like the mental health standpoint, do a combination of mental health and performance optimization on the show. So lots of different folks.
Yeah, and it's super cool, and you're kind of just getting up and going. But I can already see where we're going with this, and I can see the impact that's going to be made. So that's why I'm excited that we're working together. So with these podcast audits, we obviously dig in on audience growth, engagement, and monetization. Where do you want to start the conversation here today, Carrie?
Yeah, I didn't plan on being your client prior to the podcast audit, so this is like a little bit backwards, but I'm not mad about it. Just extra time with you, which I'm excited about. So for me, you know, podcast monetization, I think comes a little bit after I have more engagement. So I'm probably at those baby stages of just getting things up and running. I know we've talked about doing more consistent episodes. So I'm working on that, a few of our little micro steps that we've talked about, but yeah, maybe more, more engagement and then monetization. We could talk about that a little bit later
Yeah.
too.
Well, I think what you and I have had discussion about is like, all right, first we got to get consistent with our content, and to get engagement, we got to show up consistently. We got to be there every week. We got to, be in that regular flow. We're in the earbuds. I talk about it all the time now. That's our podcasting superpower, is we get inserted in people's routines, and they listen to Ready, Set, Mindful when they're walking their dog every Monday or whatever it is, and you're in their routine. So we don't want to get out of the routine or give them any excuse to delete you from their routine. So we're going to stay in there. Consistent content is primary focus, and we're on that. You've done a beautiful job making that adjustment, and now we just put in those reps, just like working out. Then the next step that we've been working on is looking at like some sort of a community engagement event, that community engagement lead magnet. What does that look like? And then what does the free stuff look like compared to eventual paid stuff? So we've been kind of mapping that out a little bit so far.
Yeah.
Any aha moments or anything that you're like, okay, this is starting to get a little bit of clarity around this? Any ideas that have popped up since we last chatted around this whole process?
Yeah. So I loved the idea of doing not only the guest episodes, but also having some solo episodes in there. So some little micro solo episodes. I've done a couple of those now, and I'm like, oh, damn, this feels pretty good. It takes a little bit off my plate as well for, doing every other. So guest solo. And then something that you and I have talked about, which I thought was really cool, was to have kind of a roundtable with athletes and
Yes.
have, more of this peer-to-peer perspective. So them, me getting a couple of athletes on my show and giving them the opportunity to really tell me, hey, what's working well in your routine? What are you guys doing mindset wise, mental health wise, that's working for you? So then I'm bringing them in, and then also bringing in a wider community of other high school athletes or other athletes that maybe don't have their routine super optimized, and they're like, oh, hey, well, True Timmy's doing it, or this person over here has this kind of dialed in, then yeah, that's maybe I should jump on that train as well. So I really like that idea, making it kind of a roundtable situation so that peers, athlete to athlete, and then I'm just kind of letting that conversation just like Jesus take the wheel. You guys like educate each other, and I'm just here for it. So I like that. I like that idea a lot.
Well, and I think it's really going to be unique in the athlete space. Like I don't see a lot of that happening, especially if you get into like, obviously college athletes, but even high school athletes. I think that's a super cool thing that you can do. You can pull athletes from all over the country, even all over the world, together to have a discussion on their mental routine. And, and I think that's going to be totally unique. It's going to set you apart. And when we talk about monetization, especially the younger the athletes are, the more their parents have to be involved, right? Like, because the high school athlete isn't going to be like, Carrie, I'm going to hire you to coach me, and I'm going to pay you in Ethereum or Bitcoin or something like that. Like, you're going to be like, I don't know what you're talking about. So here we go. Me too. So that was one of the things that we were kind of kicking some ideas around. Like, okay, especially with these younger ones, how do we cater to their parents, or at least have a show or content that they will listen to with their parents, or parents will be going, oh, I need to listen to this, and so does my kid. Because as well as I do, like when it gets to competitive youth athletics, the parents are more psycho about it a lot of times than the kids are.
Oh,
and
for
they're
sure.
the ones that will be like, I will pay whatever it takes because my kid is the next Michael Jordan, and I'm convinced of it.
It's cheaper. Yeah, my kid getting a full ride is cheaper than me. Yeah, so me investing in a coach or a therapist is way cheaper than them not getting any type of scholarship. So they can kind of see the ROI on that, I think.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly. So we're kind of looking at some content angles that we can take there. I had suggested this when we talked, but I think it's a cool idea of maybe a potential parent and student athlete combo interview or mentorship session or mental strategy session, like just doing something and just seeing what comes out of that. Because I think it'll just be like a fertile ground for brainstorming and going, ooh, this worked, this didn't work. I think I could kind of go into this content area a little bit deeper with the parents or with the students. And I think it could be pretty unique as well. And we haven't even mentioned yet that you can leverage the fact that you are working with all these athletes from Gonzaga, which is a premier athletic program, and great coaches, great athletes. They got the number one ranked basketball. They were number one until Duke beat them.
Thanks a lot.
They're a top
last night team. With Tarleton State too.
Tarleton State. They took Tarleton out.
Damn, who knew?
Who even knows where the state of Tarleton is?
It's in Texas.
There you go. So it's a big deal. So, but I think leveraging that, and that gives you premier status. That's going to level you up especially when we are looking to pull like bigger names onto your show. But just that expert positioning that we always talk about on this show, like that's why I wanted you doing solo stuff in addition to interview stuff, in addition to these coaching or small group chat. Those are all positioning you and leveling up your expert positioning. So, I mean, how are you feeling about that so far?
Yeah, I think those are all really great ideas. And I think I had maybe some reservations about the solo episode. I was like, I don't know. Do I have enough ideas for solo episodes? And turns out I do. So there's a lot. I know in one of our coaching sessions, Adam made me make a list of all these episode topics, and they just kept coming. So I was like, okay, turns out that was just a cop out. I definitely do have some ideas. So I think that'll be super helpful. And then you think, so from the round table, having that as like peer-to-peer, not doing any real coaching through that. I just kind of want to give them that space. But then the parent, like a high school athlete and a parent, you think using that as an opportunity to do some coaching, like an audit, like whatever, a coaching?
I think that could be like our audit style episode. The group discussion, that's kind of like your version of what I'm doing with Pod Pals. I really like the younger athlete and the parent combo for what we're doing here with a one-on-one. And I honestly think that if you can configure the session correctly, I think you're going to pick up a ton of business off of this, because those parents are sitting there watching you develop processes for their young athlete and implementation strategies. And this is what we do first. This is what we do second. Like, I know that you have a process and a formula that you teach. And as you get in there and just start that momentum going in the right direction, I think the parents are going to be like, this is a no-brainer. Carrie, what's our next step here? And so I like that a lot. And I think you got a better chance of monetizing that specific conversation than you do the college athlete solo, or,
for sure,
pro athlete, maybe,
Yeah, because it's challenging. Like, I think in the work that I do too, I'm trying to get, I do work with some high school and pro athletes as well, but mostly college athletes. And so with them, they're not the decision makers for like whether they work with me or not. They stick with me because they like me, and I swear in our sessions and I'm relatable. But it's the athletic departments that are making those decisions. So that's harder to rein in, not as hard to appeal and to get parents of high school athletes to get on board with what I'm doing. So yeah, I totally agree. I think that could be a really cool thing.
Well, then that's another area that you could look for an audit style session, is go bigger picture and snag somebody that's a decision maker with an athletic department, and go and just be like, we're gonna do a mental performance, a mental performance for athletes audit, or you can make it spell something, like the I don't know. What I'm talking about. Get a little acronym going.
Yeah.
But I like that a lot, because again, you have processes and you can go, here's step one, here's step two, here's what we do to start your athletes along this. Here's the result that we're looking for. Here's what you can expect performance wise, on the court, on the field, in the classroom, the whole deal.
Right.
I like that as, okay, that's a relationship now. They need someone to come in and work with a team, or speak to a team, or be a consultant, or work with every team in their roster. Like, I see what you do the same as a strength and performance coach, strength and conditioning coach. It's the same. Like, they want people like you in charge of the whole deal, and I think that's, if you can get a hold of decision makers in athletic departments, I think you can crank out something pretty special. Or maybe it's just like, maybe they don't have you there all the time, but they hire you just to set it all up,
right?
And you're the person that they're paying for the consulting fee, which for you, that's a high dollar, that's a high ticket item.
For sure.
And, and you don't have to be digging in and dealing with all the athletes either. Like, you just go in, you set up all the magic, and you get the ball rolling. Maybe you train in some of their people they already have on staff or whatever. And now we're talking about, you've got all these universities or all these athletic departments that are kind of in your portfolio, and that just makes it even more impressive.
For sure. I love that. And I actually talked to my friend over at Gonzaga yesterday, Bill Drake. He's absolutely amazing. And he's the director of student athlete mental health and wellness. And I talked to him. I asked him, what coaches are having their shit together these days? Like, who can you, we can swear, right?
Oh yeah.
Great. Fantastic. So I asked him, like, what coaches should I be talking to right now? And I think that could be, so I was kind of thinking of it from that angle too, because coaches can be decision makers, because athletic departments, they have a big pot, to pull from, for sure. But each individual team has their own pot as well. And so if I get coaches on board, then that could be something cool to kind of, get them on board with what I can offer. So I thought about reaching out to a few coaches, starting with Gonzaga, and reaching out from there too, to show them what I can kind of do for their teams. So.
Yes. And we both know, collegiate coaches, no other collegiate coaches, because it's a revolving door. A lot of times they've been in 5 different universities. They've got so many connections.
For
So
sure.
this is a position where you can, like, I would position this, especially if you get a bigger name coach, like if you get Mark Few to come on and you're like, all right, I wanted to interview you as somebody that has a sports team that's interested in mental performance just as much as physical performance. And you talk to them about why that's so important for them, why it helps them do what they do as a winning team. And then you start asking a few questions about, well, have you ever tried this? Or have you ever tried that? And that's where you get your expert positioning, where you kind of just do a little tiny sprinkle of consulting in there of this is a process, like with me, I have my whole podcasting success timeline, and I can grab people and go, you're in phase 2, you're in phase 4. This is the symptoms. Here is what you do to correct this or that. Like if you can pull that kind of stuff out of your bag, and all of a sudden they're like, wow, she's got this 5-phase process and our team looks like we're a phase 3 right now, and she can help us go to phase 4 with these steps, then you're getting pulled in. But then when you're done with that interview, I would go, hey, I noticed you used to be a coach at so-and-so university. Do you know blah, 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 this other big name coach? Could you give me a warm intro? And like, I think it's as long as it's not somebody that replaced them, that they were like, I think I wouldn't go there, but maybe they're the basketball coach and they were used to be at a school that's got a really good football program. And then you get the intro to that coach and you kind of ping around.
For sure.
I think you could get a ton of great interviews, and all of these are just potential coaching consulting gigs. And they're just little relationship builders with all these universities. Yeah. And then, I mean, you've got, Jalen Suggs and all these guys are in the pros now, just out of Gonzaga. And like, so you get rooted in with some of these athletes, they go pro, and then you got the door opens with everybody on that level too. So like this really reminds me, there was a strength coach, I'm based in Bloomington, Indiana. There was this strength coach named Joe Abunasar that's still out there somewhere. I'm sure he's still doing it. And he was a graduate assistant basketball coach for Bobby Knight and the Indiana Hoosiers basketball team back in the day. And he got affiliated with one of the players. I can't remember who it was. That's like, hey, I want you to just work with me in the off season. And that guy ended up being kind of like a lower level NBA player, but he introduced him to Kevin Garnett. Yeah. All right. And then Kevin Garnett introduced him to all the Indiana Pacers and all the NBA All-Stars. He's been flowing around everywhere. It just took a few little connections. All of a sudden, he's just ingrained in the NBA. And he brought some guys back to our gym. We had all these like 7-foot tall guys hitting their heads on the cable crossover machine, like the pull-up bars, they're like, doing. And we're like, who's that? Like, oh my God, that's Reggie Miller, Mark Jackson, all these guys from the Pacers. And it's pretty cool. But like, that's the same thing that you could be doing networking wise, just from the mental performance side of things. So really, that's where I would keep your focus level and be like, all right, this is relationship building, especially, in 2022. I'd make it all about just connections, relationship building, and let's see what happens out of that. And, we're working together, so I'll keep you focused on that. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm excited. I just have, so many ideas for the episodes, so solo episodes and the roundtables, and it's got a lot of ideas flowing. So I'm going to start there and keep the train moving. You'll keep me accountable.
Of course. And just like general game plan wise, just kind of give you a snapshot of kind of next steps. Like we've already been working on a good lead magnet for you. And that was one of the things that I realized, like I know you're nervous, like you said, about the solo episode thing. And I'm like, just kick me a few ideas. And you had this spreadsheet of like 9,000 workshops that you can do. I'm like, all right, we're good. We're good. Yeah. But I think that taking some of that content that you would normally deliver as a workshop, and we go, okay, these are micro episodes that I could touch on. These are, small group coaching programs that you could develop. These are quarterly workshops. We talked about that as a monetization strategy where we focus on one of those and we kind of drive to that with our free stuff. But you're building some lead magnet stuff out, which is going to help. We're going to build your email list. Yeah. Like this, I just want you to put your blinders on and go, okay, the next 12 months, it's about putting in reps as a podcaster, building content, building up my social media presence a little bit, building my email list. It's about getting 1,000 true fans. Like the target is, okay, 1,000 downloads per episode, 1,000 on the email list, 1,000 on your top 1 or 2 social media platforms. And that would be an amazing next 12 months, just to have that foundation right there. And then from there, it's much easier to monetize. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Just the content before the horse, like you got to put that before I can do anything else, and yeah, I think I might have done things a little bit backward. We could talk about this like later too with the lead magnet course. I may or may have not put together a course before the like lead magnet. I think I got it confused. I was like, wait, should I be doing my free toolkit or a course? I just kind of started recording.
Well, sometimes it helps. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it helps to have like the landing spot and build the stepping stones backward from that. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. And now you've got a paid course that you can do. And then we go, okay, now that we got a paid course, what is the appetizer to that we can do as a lead magnet that connects them to that builds momentum? And then we go, what podcast content can I talk about? That's the appetizer to the appetizer.
Totally.
And even giving them a little bit of that, and then they just get more, and they get more implementation, more like hands-on video stuff and bonus content and the lead magnet. And that just sends them down the path towards that paid course. So I think that's totally fine.
Okay. In case you're wondering why it was taking me so long, I actually just built a course. So
I just went ahead and built a course.
It's like, oh, Carrie's lazy. I'm like, no. I think I just did it wrong.
No, I don't think you're lazy. So to clue people in on how efficient Carrie is, we did a meeting and she's like, yep, I want to hire you as my coach. I go, okay, when do you want to start? We started the next day. And I gave her homework and I had a list. I'm like, oh, this is going to take her a while to get through all this. She texted me the next day. All right, I'm done. What's next? And I was like, okay. So I gave her all my lead magnet and course building stuff, and she just went out and built herself a dang course in like a week. So that is
what the content looks like, but you'll be the judge of it. So that'll be good.
Yeah. So I think we got great momentum going right now.
I have a question for you, because this is something I came across for sure. And doing that course, when I was thinking of it as the free thing, I was like, oh no, I should definitely be charging for this. But do you ever have that question of how much you should be, quote unquote, this idea of what you should be giving away for free, like the content? It's hard for me to find that balance. I'm like, there's so much through the podcasts that you give to people for content, and then I think you said before, like, people like me, and so they or they come because they like me and they stay for the community. But as far as content and like how much you should be like giving to people prior to like making making it monetary, like what does that look like?
This is a great question. I personally, I like a lead magnet or a freemium, as they say. Like, I like people to feel like I would have paid for that. Or if my friends tell me, yeah, you should be charging for that. And it's not like you should be charging $2,000 for that. Like, then I know, okay, something's messed up here. I gave away too much. But if they're like, you could charge for this, or if you're hearing those types of comments, then I like to be in that zone. For me, the paid stuff, people pay me to help them implement. I can teach you every damn thing that I know, but if you never implement anything, ain't nothing good coming out of it. So people will pay you for implementation, for the step by step, the hand holding, like that. If you just have step 1, do this, step 2, execute this. Here's the checklist. Here's the downloadable thing. Here's the check-in video. Here's the small group coaching. That's what people are paying for.
It's true. Yeah. I never thought I'd need anyone to hold my hand, but it turns out I need Adam to hold my hand.
You've got a lot of ideas, and I'm just putting structure to those ideas. And I go, this is idea number 1, and this is step 2 of that idea. Step 3, okay, check that checkbox. Let's go to idea number 2. We're just putting the right boxes in the right order. And that's the same thing that you do. And that's what we charge for. That's where our expertise truly comes in, because the process isn't going to be the same for each person also. That's why you can give away all this free knowledge on the podcast or in your freebie.
So it doesn't apply to everyone.
Exactly. Like your step one is different from the next person's step one because you're just in a different place.
Right.
And that's when you talk mental performance, that's even more true, 100% more true. Like,
For sure.
Depending on what their blocks are or what they're struggling with or where they're excelling, you got to put all those pieces of the puzzle together and customize something. So that's
for sure.
So think about customization, implementation, hand-holding, bonus, steps, processes, procedures. That's what we're charging for. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And I think like where I get caught up too is just trying to decide, and you could definitely help me with this too, what to make a course, what to make a workshop, like what, do I do like a free mental toolkit, right? Like, should that maybe be where I start with my freemium? But so those are just some questions I've swirling around.
Well, you've proven to be very prolific with your content and content creation, and you're whipping through all my Kajabi training pretty quickly too. So I don't think it's not like we have to choose this or that. I think we could do all the things, but it's just going to be experimenting, testing, seeing what your audience reacts to, and then we do more of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Cool. I don't want you to have the FOMO. We can do all the things, Carrie.
All the things. Thanks.
So I want to make sure that you get an opportunity to shout out your show. So let us know, your show, where people can find your web address, where you're at on social, all the things here in case they want to check you out.
All the things. Yes. So you can find me. My podcast is on Apple and Spotify. So Ready, Set, Mindful. Also at readysetmindful.com, and I'm on Instagram and YouTube at Ready, Set, Mindful. So go and check it out.
Check her out, people. She's got great content. She's got an awesome show. She's helping a lot of people. If you've got an athlete in your life, make sure they listen to Ready, Set, Mindful. And as always, Pod Pals, if you want to do a podcast audit just like Carrie, head on over to the website, www.podcastingbusiness.school. And with that, I will send you out into the world wishing you health, happiness, and many downloads. We'll see you next time.